The film begins in Texas in the year 2020, where one of the survivors narrates who says that they were once humankind but are now nothing more than pests. She claims that Clum's purpose for visiting Earth was to wipe out humans and steal their history and culture. They constructed a breeding facility for the survivors and covered their land with the corpses of the dying. The people who have defected from their group say it's worse than hell. They were slaughtered in waves by the Clums as soon as they arrived, and the Clums built megastructures that sprayed methane into the air, which created their atmosphere. Then, to plant their crops, they extinguished their plant life, which raises the planet's temperature and causes the cities to flood. Additionally, the Vermins waged war on Earth by setting fire to forests, which rendered it impossible for people to breathe, mainly if they were close to the stacks. Once the Clums make direct eye contact with their victims, they can hack into their minds, which causes them to become paralyzed. The Clums can also control their cerebrum and limbic system, turning them into enslaved people. Most human survivors have taken refuge underground or in abandoned buildings. They're scavenging enough food to keep themselves alive and building enough of a will to fight. They organize themselves into a group and arm themselves. Still, because they lacked even the most basic supplies, weapons, and ammunition, they had to use anything they could get their hands on to combat. The primary Clum weapon has nanite, also present in its arsenals. The resistance was resilient in the face of overwhelming odds, fighting with their determination to free humanity from the Raka's control. So they unite and include people of different races and backgrounds working together for a common cause, to kill the Clums and free themselves from them. They are conducting raids to free captive humans and to gather information about the Clums. They witness how the Clums dehumanize the human race, treating them like objects, experimenting on them, and disposing of them when they were no longer helpful to them. Sometime later, a prisoner subjected to various experiments and the Clums grotesquely transforming his body is in intense agony and begs for death. Still, the Clum watches he suffers. Later, the Clums come across the president of a particular country. They raise their hands to call forth an unknown device, then open the president's head. After that, they stuffed it with alien cells of unknown origin. A few minutes later, the extraterrestrials take control of the president and transform him into a walking dead. They get him to obediently follow their orders and allow humans to put down their weapons. The president uses talk of peaceful coexistence as a distraction. At the same time, the Clums behind him hunt down any remaining humans and eliminates them all. On the other hand, such an act didn't fool the remaining survivors, who were well aware of the tricks the Clums played on them. At this precise moment, Della, one of the survivors, moved forward and came out while pretending to surrender despite being covered in explosives all over her body. Unfortunately, the Clums weren't fooled and blew her up when she tried to trick them. However, the Clums are unaware that Dawson, one of the people who managed to escape, had already activated the detonator switch on one of his traps. After some time has passed, the children joyfully cheer as they pick up the severed limb of the Clums. However, despite very few of them, even such a minor victory is sufficient to support human resistance, but not for anything else. A substance resembling oil is being spat wildly by extraterrestrial beings onto human structures. The resistance created brain barriers to protect them from the Clums' ability to control their minds. However, the Clums are aware that if there's a lack of materials, there will be a shortage of brain barriers and that, in no time, they will be able to capture Earth. As a result, they have high hopes of prevailing in a war of attrition against the humans who have managed to survive. On the other side, the Clums use some female prisoners as surrogate incubators, which results in the victims' death's inevitability. After some time has passed, the Clums carry out an airstrike that wipes out a militia convoy. Then, one of the soldiers who managed to escape the battle sees a being resembling an angel materialize out of thin air, much like the Northern Lights. A few days later, the New World changed everyone. Nash, a technologically savvy pyromaniac and bomb maker, thrives in the New World despite living in the scrapyard far away from the resistance. He's indispensable to the opposition because he can make anything from scrap materials, including bombs and locks for the brain. After that, the leader of the resistance, Jasper, a woman heavily augmented with cybernetic implants, and her men go to his house and find Nash. They're purchasing arms from him that they can use themselves. When the other man inquires about the brain lock, the first person responds by stating that it's not available for purchase, which infuriates the other person. Therefore, Jasper has a conversation with Nosh, informing him that he's aware of their needs, that everything has a pay, and that they can pay him. But all he says is that he's happy that the Clums came to that place so that he can burn whatever he wants without breaking any laws or risking going to jail. When Jasper asks about him and the fire, he responds that he will eventually burn to death and the fire will consume him. The members of the Resistance despise Nosh because of his murderous glee and demands, which include using the injured or suicidal as bait during his many-eyed ambushes. However, they will have to give in to Nosh's demands to keep the iodine brain barriers he makes safe. She explains that if they were in a time of peace, such an offer would be completely illogical. However, anything is possible now that they're in the new world. Amir, a muted prisoner who managed to escape from the Clum, is found by members of the Resistance in Sector 7. Jasper approaches and reassures him that he won't hurt him and lets him know that he can assist them in any way he can. On the other hand, a member of the Resistance advises Jasper to eliminate him because of everything implanted in his head. In the face of opposition from her lieutenants, Jasper orders them to cease their actions and then releases Amir from her custody. Then, she gives him over to the care of a member of the Resistance named Sarah. While she tries to convince Amir to aid the Resistance in their fight against the Clum, Sarah provides him with food and drinks. She tells him that he can help them by utilizing the precognitive abilities he gained due to the Clum's experiments. On the other hand, Jasper goes to check on the injured alongside her lieutenants, and she sees what the extraterrestrials have put inside the bodies of the humans they killed. After returning to Sarah, he attempts to remove Amir's cover to determine what the extraterrestrials did to him. Amir initially puts up some resistance, but in the end, he gives in and allows her to observe the extensive cybernetics that covers his head and shoulders. Even though the new world affected them, Amir was reborn with something completely different. The following evening, the soldiers conduct drills and prepare themselves for battle. Sarah demonstrates them to Amir and explains that they attempt to fight in the same manner as they did in the past. They want to prevent the Clums from harming anyone else in the same way they hurt him. On the other hand, one of the lieutenants asks Jasper what's in Sarah and Amir. Jasper responds by saying that she lost her daughter to Clum's experiments while pregnant with Amir. She claims that the reason behind Sarah's theory is that they have a predisposition for it, that they're the Clum's servants, and that Amir is the same way. Amir makes a complete mental and physical recovery. Then, due to his implant, he has a vision of a wounded Clum evading capture by militia forces. Sarah begs Amir to assist the officers of the militia in their efforts to stop the genocide. As she continues to converse with him, he notices that his eyes are changing and that he's beginning to get a clearer vision of the impending attack. Amir, who hasn't spoken yet, has a vision in which the militia launches a daring raid and shoots down an alien aircraft using advanced technology and cybernetic enhancements to gain an advantage. So the Clum who was piloting the craft is now on the run. Sarah confronts Amir with the question of whether or not they will be able to acquire the knowledge necessary to hunt the Clum and instill fear in them. He can't respond, but he has a strong vision that the Clum will use telepathy force to strike one of the militia soldiers. He sees a soldier disconnected from his brain barrier and becomes susceptible to mind control. The soldier gets to his feet, grabs his weapon, and begins firing shots at his fellow soldiers. Therefore, the remaining soldiers get compelled to kill him by shooting him. Sarah informs Amir that he now possesses the Clum's abilities and that he's obligated to use them for the benefit of humanity. In the previous scene from the vision, the militia encircles the Clum, and Jasper gives the order for them to cut off its head. After a brutal and intense battle, with both sides suffered heavy losses, the human resistance manages to infiltrate the Raka's stronghold and plant a device that will cripple the Raka's communication and control systems. However, several members of the resistance got killed in the process. The film ends with Sarah encouraging Amir to use his abilities because she believes that he's humanity's last hope.